Hello everyone and welcome to another lesson. Today we are going to explore arrays inside of n8n. It's a very important type of variables that you should know. It's a variable that you will be facing whenever you're doing more complex workflows or more workflows that rely on data. So arrays are very important to that. So today you won't have to be afraid because arrays, they seem to be complex, but in essence they're very easy, and today I'm going to try to explain it in a very easy way. I'm a no coder, I'm not a programmer, I come not from a technical background, so I'll try to explain it the way I understood it. So for that, let's go jump ahead inside of n8n and let me explain how things work. All right, so I'm inside of n8n here. As you can see here, I have my trigger node, which is the first node that starts every workflow inside of n8n. So this is a very critical node and a very important node because without it, you cannot trigger or start a workflow. There's a lot of ways for you to trigger a workflow. I have a lesson on that on YouTube. You can check that out. But in this instance, I want to just go ahead and trigger manually because I just want to test at this point. So in order to test an array, what we need to do is create an edit. Let's create an edit field. What the edit field does is you basically create variables inside of this. So whenever I create edit field, now there's two ways you can do that. I already have a video about edit fields on my YouTube channel. You can check that out as well. So I'm going to create a new variable, and now you can see here the variable name, the type of the variable, and the value that we have here. Okay, so I'm going to name this array 01. I'm going to name it as an array. Okay, so inside of the value of this, now we can write a value of an array. Now, how we need to do that is simple. First, we need to put the equal sign. So the equal sign turns it into an expression. Other way you can do it, you can just toggle expression, but for me, the shortcut is much easier. So now since I have I can start writing a variable. So I start with the brackets here, and then I can start with writing this. So as soon as I write this type of brackets here, these ones, it turns into an array because these are the sign inside of an expression that this is an array. Okay. So if I write things here, it will write null because I need to structure it in a way that it understands that this is an array. So an array, imagine it as a briefcase of items inside of those. Okay. So those items can be different types of items. Could be text, could be numbers, could be date, could be objects, could be whatever the type of these items inside of the briefcase. Let's start with a string, which is a text. So we put the quotes and let's write J. Okay, as you can see here, it gave us J. Okay, so now this array, if you execute this step, this array, as you can see here, it's an array named array01, and it has the value J inside of it. Now the value inside of this called array01 as well, but as you can see, as you notice here, it has the position 0. Now if I add more to this, let's add, for example, now as you can see here, the position 0 of this array has Jake and the position 1 has Lisa. This is very important because selecting which position, because we can select based on position inside of an array. Okay, so now we have the basic array. You know how to write a basic array. It has 2 strings. What if we want to add a number? We can just add a number here like 3, and then we execute. As you can see here, 3 has the last one. Notice that we didn't put brackets on the 3 because we want 3 to be a number, right? A number, or in coding terms, they call it integers sometimes because it's a round number, and they call it floats when it has a number with a decimal. Okay. Anyways, so now we have an array that has string and that has text and numbers. Now we can add more. We can add an array inside of an array. Okay. We can add JSON here, and let's execute this step. And as you can see here now, we have an array inside of an array. So this array here has JSON inside of it. Okay, so it's an array inside of an array. Now we can name this array, right? We can name this array whatever we want, and we can add to it as well. But anyways, this is adding an array. Now we can add also an object inside of here. So we can write like this. For example, groceries, lettuce. Okay, okay. So as you can see here, because inside of this array, we have groceries and we have the term lettuce to it. So number 3 inside of the array, then number 3, what it has an object inside of it. It has a key value pair. The key here is groceries and what's inside of it is lettuce. But we will handle objects later on. Okay, I don't want to overcomplicate things here. So now we have 2 names and a number. Okay, so execute this one and I have that one. Okay, so now what we want to know is the functions that we can manipulate this array based on. Okay, and to do that, we just need to write dot here. Now, as soon as we write dot, we will get here the functions, first of all, the famous functions of an array, and then all of these here as well, the things that you can do with an array. First one is an important one, which is length. So whenever I put length here, I get 3. Why 3? Because we have 3 items, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, length is very famous one. Last here, it tells us which is the last one, and of course there's a first. You can write here and you can find it here first, and it gives you the first one. Then what we have includes. So includes is very important. Here it tells us what it needs. So it needs to search for something. So if I write 3, or if I write 3 like this, because it's a number, it tells me true, 3 exists. If I write Jake, does Jake exist? Yes, it exists. If I write Jake without the case sensitive thing, it tells me false. So it has to be case sensitive. Okay. So this makes sure that the array includes a certain item. Now map is I will go over that later on, but it's a much more complex usage of an array here. Okay, so as you put it here, creates a new array by applying a function to each of the element inside of the array. Okay, so if you want to go over this array and add something to each one of these, okay, and then you can do this item, then you can multiply if you want. I think they have an example of a text as well. Yeah, you can like dot to uppercase here. Let's try that. So as you can see here, what is happening with the map? It's mapping each one, means it takes each one of the items inside of the array, and it runs it to a certain thing. So it ran it into a function called uppercase. So it made everything uppercase. So a map is a way to apply something to every and each part of the array. Okay. Now it could be a number. If it's all numbers, we can add to it. We can multiply it by 2 as the example. If it's a text, you can apply a function of a text, and also it also does it in terms of objects as well. Okay. So let's go. We went for filter. So what filters it filters it gives you the result right here. It's the same thing. One item is true, so it gives us 2 items, right? If we say false, nothing here is false. What we can do here as well, if we have numbers, we can filter by number. If the age is a certain thing, it comes back to us with that as well. If we want, you can have item dot length, and then you want to be smaller than 4, nothing, 6, then it gives us, okay? So it searches here for every item that the length of it is less than 6, okay? And then it gives us everything here. So filter gives us the difference is map applies something to each and every one of those. Filter gives us only we want to select certain parts of the array that follows a certain condition. So it's like a filtering system. All right, filter here. Let's see what else. So append basically adds element to the end of the array. Let's, for example, try Lily. Right, so as you can see here, it added Lily to the end. It's a way to add to the end of the array, okay? So chunk, what chunk does, it splits the array, okay? If you want to split the array, you can do that. So let's split it on 2, 1. So as you can see, 1, it splits it. After the 1, it makes it 2 arrays, okay? So you can split the array into several arrays with a chunk. 1. The concat is an important one as well. So what concat is, it adds it to the end of the base, so it's simple to append as well. Similar to append. So find, similar to filter, it finds a certain element and gives you back. First, we went over that. So IndexOf is important. So if you want to search for certain elements here, like Lisa, what is the index of Lisa? So what is the number here? Because Lisa now, as you can see, it's in 1, position 1, index 1. So it gives us back index. If we search for Jake, it gives us 0. And if we search for H, for example, which is non-existent, it gives us -1. So the index of is a good if you want to search for something. If something exists, you can make a condition node, like an if node, that if it's -1, then the element doesn't exist. Okay. Okay. So find, as we can say, as we said, it gives us the number back. It searches for something and gives us back the result, similar to filter. Index of, so is empty. So is this empty? False, because it has elements inside of this array. Is not empty is basically the exact opposite. Join is very important one, because join basically takes what the array contains and joins it together, right? And here we can specify what we wanted to join it with. We can join it with a space. We can join it with a new line. We can, I think with a new line, we need to do like that. Oh. So, yeah, we can join it with 2 dots. Whatever you want, whatever you specify is exactly what it will join it with, okay? And here they give you examples of what you need to do. But the result is not an array. The result is a text, okay? Keep that in mind. Join is very important. So merge, what merge does, merges 2 objects, arrays into 1 object. So it makes it 1 object. Very low use case of this one. So pluck removes. So pluck, it returns an array, but it removes whatever you want to remove, like Lisa here. See. So apparently it works on objects. Yeah, it works on object. This is why it didn't work in our case. So we need an object. Okay. So pluck here, we did random item, gives us 1 random item. That's a very important one, I think, use case if you want to just select a random item. Where we were. Reduce. So reduce applies a function to the array, and you can run that function. Yeah, takes okay. It's more for numbers. Okay. I never used reduce before. Let's see what else. Rename, reverse. Reverse is good. It reverses the structure of an array. The last one becomes the first one, and the first one becomes the last one. Nice. I can see use cases for that. Slice. So what slice does, so returns a portion of the array. Okay. So let's say slice 1, it returns Lisa, only Lisa, because Lisa is at number 1. If we say slice 0, it returns everything. Slice 2, there's nothing at position 2. Okay. So it has a start number and an end number. Okay. So slice 2, 4, it gives us, okay. We can add things here, like, for example, Lily, James. And then we can say slice 2, 3, and it gives us only Lily, because if you can say 0, 1, 2, 2 is Lily, and then 3 is James, so it gives us only Lily. Okay. Now, if we had more, like if we had 4, then we could say Lily and James are the ones selected. So it's a good way to select a chunk of the array if you know the index of each one. So sort, it sorts the array as it sounds, right? Here it's sorting them alphabetically, right? But if you have numbers, you can sort as well with numbers, small to big. And so yeah, here they have an example. And they can reverse the alphabet as well. Okay. It's a good way to sort the array if you need. The default option just sorts alphabetically. Sort. So to JSON string. So if we try this, it gives us the JSON string of it exactly as we want it, like the exact array. And what else do we have? Unique to spliced, add or remove elements of the array at a given position. Okay. So start number as well, it gives us, okay. So let's start by, if we say 1, it gives us only 1 and deletes basically everything inside of the array from 1 onwards. So Jake is 0, 1 onwards is deleted. Okay. So if we say 3, let's say 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it starts from 2 and deletes the rest. 0, 1, 0, 1, 2. Okay, this is position 2, which is Lily. And then everything else gets deleted, and we only have these Jake and so if you want, we can increase this 3. From position 3 onwards, it gets deleted. And if you want to start from the early 1, 0, 1 onwards, gets deleted. Okay, so it's a good way to delete parts of the array by specifying the start and the end. What, of course, I mean index. Okay. Union. So basically concats 2 arrays and then removes any duplicate. Okay. So I think with union, it needs 2 arrays. So it adds 2 arrays together and removes duplicates. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Unique gives us the unique. Let's say if we add another James here. So it only gives us 1 James because it only gives us the unique one. Okay, good. So let's see here. I think we went through most of these. Yes. So I think the suggested one gives you the most important ones, with the map filter includes last. length and last first. These are important one. Find important one. IndexOf is very crucial and important as well. Is empty, is not empty. Join I use a lot because I want to turn an array into a string of text. I use that. So one more thing I want to show you with an array is, let's remove this execute step, is basically whenever I use an array inside of it, I use a split if I want to have each item separate. So I grab the array here and I say execute. And now, as you can see here, from one item, now we have 4 items. And each item is in one, it's separated. Okay, so now whatever node that comes after this one will iterate over each item of this one. Okay, so I went from one, it's like the same iterator and an aggregator if you come from make.com. Okay, so everything that comes after this will be executed 4 times, so be careful of that. Now if I want to get this back into an array form, the aggregate node does that, and I just need to grab this here and I aggregate, and then I got back the array, so we're back to one item. Okay, this is very important for you to understand, is splitting an array gives us several items, and these items will now be iterated over 4 times. Whatever comes here, if it's an AI agent, if it's whatever, it will execute 4 times. So be careful of that. But if you want to get back the array together, stitch everything together inside of an array again, you use the aggregate node to stitch that up. So split and aggregate are very important whenever you deal with an array inside of n8n. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too long of a lesson for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more video, and I'll see you in the next one.